Sunday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern here on BeyondRingside.com. Join us for the Midnight Black Mass. Myself, the Reverend Dan Wilson, brings you the dark gospel of professional wrestling, uncensored, unedited, uncut, and not for the faint of heart. You can find out more about us at youtube.com/pottyhumor or subscribe at Potty Humor on iTunes and Stitcher today.
Forget all you know about podcasts. We welcome you to an experience uniquely different. Please join us for our coverage of all entertainment on the fringe of society. The candles are lit, the lights are down low. It is now time to welcome our host as he steps up to the pulpit. The sacrifice has been prepared for the midnight black mass.
Ghastly greetings, groovy ghoulies, and how the hell are you? Welcome to another edition of the Midnight Black Mass podcast. It is I, your host, the devil you know, the maniacal minister of the occult, the Reverend Dan the Dragon Wilson, your host with the most on the Midnight Black Mass. Had a nice little break. We missed the entire Halloween season for reasons of my own and the network's own. The network took a brief hiatus there, but everybody's back on the same page, and we're happy to be back on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network. And unfortunately, our co-host, my partner in crime, the Southeastern Strangler, Andrew Alexander, was not able to be here tonight. He'll be joining us again next week as we wrap up Volume 6. I'm going to be wrapping this volume up in the next couple of weeks right here before Christmas time. And then once we do, we're going to launch an all-new Volume 7 into 2017, and it's going to be a doozy. I got some interview guests coming back. Got some new format tweaks, as we like to do when we move on to the next volume. And so that's going to happen. But at this time, I want to introduce my co-host for the night, who is the third Beatle, if you will, of the Midnight Black Mass team, and the founder of the Beyond Ringside Radio Network, and I'm glad to have him here, having my back. Fast Eddie Lane, how are you, my brother?
My friend, it is good to be back. I am glad to get everything back in this world, to a great degree. Still trying to put it all together and make reality out of, chicken salad, but, something, it's cool as hell. Glad to be back with you, Rev.
Hey, again, thank you for joining me. And so much has happened in the absence. We had an election. The entire state of Tennessee pretty much is burnt to the ground due to wildfires at some point. A lot of bad things, unfortunately. We'll try to gloss over them. You hear enough about that everywhere you go, every time you turn on the television or the news. So we're going to have a little fun. We're going to talk a little wrestling. We're going to talk some movies. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what I got into over the Halloween season. Of course, I had, the big trip planned to Universal Studios in Orlando, Halloween Horror Nights 2016. It did not disappoint. I wouldn't talk about that, but boy, it was hell walking about 10 miles a day. The week after Fright Night 2016 at Why We Wrestle in Cornelia, Georgia, the Church of Southern Wrestling. Follow them on Facebook.com/ThisIsWhyWeWrestle. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, YouTube.com/ThisIsWhyWeWrestle, to see the new weekly television program. You can get all the highlights from Fright Night. You can go to Woo Wrestling on Vimeo and purchase your own copy of the Fright Night video on demand. You can see it for yourself. Unfortunately, the Devil's Rejects did not fare so well against the team of Elijah Evans and the Big Effin' Deal. Azrael got injured early into the matchup. It was Brad Cash and 7, 2-on-3 against 3 incredibly tough dudes, and they held their own. But in the end, we just weren't able to overcome. And then they got a hold of me. And the massive 450-pound Jeter, the guy stands about 6'8", he took me out and dropped a giant big splash on me that like to sit my intestines into the front row, sans my keister. But I did keep them intact and managed not to be publicly disemboweled, but it did put me on the shelf for a little bit. So as you've seen, if you've been keeping up with the Why We Wrestle television, I have not been a part of that for a while. The rejects are there. Brad Cash has vowed revenge, but since Fright Night, I've been on the shelf, and according to the doctor, it's probably going to be on the shelf into 2017 from a managerial perspective. The risk apparently too great for me to actually be out there ringside to get re-injured. So, still doing some administrative duties. I handled some of the office duties of the Why We Wrestle, so still doing that from the comfort of my own home, and will be making my way back down to the arena in the first part of the year in person to handle some business in the office capacity and, behind the scenes consulting to rejects and things like that. But very excited to announce, huge announcement just came down the pike, speaking of Why We Wrestle. Has nothing to do with me managing, thankfully, but does have something to do with me announcing because, get this, Eddie, NWA Wildside is coming back for one night only, January 28th, 2017, at the Church of Southern Wrestling, 4236 Level Grove Road in Cornelia, Georgia. That's right. The number one wrestling alternative, the promotion that ran from 1999 to 2005 in that arena that spawned some of the biggest stars in the sport, including current WWE World Heavyweight Champion, the phenomenal AJ Styles, among many others. We are getting the band back together. January 28th, over 40 Wildside stars confirmed, all ready to appear. It's going to be a love fest. It's going to be a night of nostalgia. It's going to be a night of tribute to historic and great wrestling. The seats are going to be limited, folks. There's an on-sale date coming soon. You need to go to the Why We Wrestle social media and stay tuned, because when they announce that on-sale date, we have some VIP packages that are going to be available. They're going to be in a limited number, and the tickets themselves are going to be in a limited number. Given the influence that Wildside has and the response that we've already gotten, I fully anticipate that to sell out. So be on the lookout for that on-sale date.
You think it's going to sell out? Shoot, we're talking about Wildside. They're going to be hanging from the rafters in there.
I mean, the response so far has just fucking blown me away. And very, very happy to announce, elated actually, to announce that not only will I be returning, but I will be joined in the broadcast booth by my longtime partner. So something fans have been clamoring for since Wildside ended. I get messages weekly wanting to know when me and this guy are going to reunite in the broadcast booth somewhere. Well, you're going to get your chance, because on January 28th, me and Steven Prazak will reunite the NWA Wildside announce team for the Wildside reunion. Can't really talk about any of the stars confirmed yet. I know some of them have kind of teased it on their own social media, but I promise you, if you were a fan of Wildside in any era, there's going to be something for you. There's going to be stuff from fans of the really early days all the way up till the end. There was a lot of different levels and cycles of talent and types of wrestlers that came through over those various tenures and booking, runs and reigns. And I just, it's the most exciting thing I've heard in quite a while in wrestling.
When you're talking about Wildside, you're talking about a company that basically took a building and transcended the image of the building to the Church of Southern Wrestling. I mean, whether it was Wildside and what eventually became Anarchy, and then, of course, moving into Why We Wrestle, the reference for the building has always been there. You've had promoters who have tried to run close to y'all. Some have run take three. I skipped take two. I always screw that one up, too. They'll try to run close to it, and they may do good for a little while, but people will come back to the church, 4236 Level Grove Road. And lo and behold, as it stands, you had so many different individuals, so many styles, so to speak, so many different entities who have made such a contribution over to pro wrestling over the years. And this is a night that I'm okay. Fortunately yet unfortunately, I have a prior commitment that night, or I would damn sure be there with bells on. That's the day after my birthday, and with everything that I know and everything I remember about Wildside, I would love to be there just to take it all in.
Yeah, it's a shame you're going to miss it. I'm assuming there's going to be some sort of VOD release similar to Fright Night. I know Woo is retired temporarily from the VOD production, which is a damn shame. Let me just speak on that for a minute. I just want to give a shout out to my partner Al Getz for the Somehow We Manage podcast through the Woo Wrestling Network, through the Scenic City Invitational, and not Southern Fried Wrestling, but the offshoot promotion they did, Marquee, to Why We Wrestle Fright Night. Like, I've worked with Al and Woo in many capacities, and he's a guy I've known since my first day in Wildside back in the year 2000. He's the guy that actually gave me the nickname Dan the Dragon, trying to rib a young kid who was clueless at the time. And, it's kind of backfired on him because it got over, surprisingly, which don't ask me why, but it did. And so, me and Al just developed a great relationship over the years and a mutual respect, and nobody did as much for indie wrestling, both back in the Woo website days to the return of Woo Production Company. It was one of the finest production companies, and I hope it's only a temporary hiatus. As he said, everything in wrestling is, as far as retirements, are always subject to change, but if he never comes back, then the wrestling world will sorely miss him. So thank you, Al Getz, for everything you did with Woo Wrestling and just as a person and a brother. But I'm sure there will be a VOD release of some kind. I know the Powerbomb TV service has launched recently. I know we've been in talks with them. There's been just some issues with getting production to get the stuff to them in a timely manner, but we're working on it while we wrestle. It's a growing operation. That's why they've enlisted my help. So, just be patient with us. We're working to try to restore wrestling to the glory that it was back in those Wildside days there. But yeah, if you don't see it live, I'm sure there's going to be an opportunity for VOD. Hell, maybe even an iPay-per-view. I don't know exactly what they've talked about. I'm kind of going into the Wildside thing more just as a performer, because my office duties with Why We Wrestle are starting to become a lot. So I didn't want to take on the responsibility of all of that, plus the regular day-to-day operation of running that company. So we enlisted a Wildside veteran who knows everybody, and of course I have the full seal of approval of an endorsement of Bill Behrens, who will also be there making his return to the church after quite some time. And I just wish I could announce some of the names I already know, but I'm not gonna. I'll save that for the company to make those official announcements.
Well, we could possibly try to arrange to have a special edition of the MBM if they would like to try to work something out with you.
I'm sure we could make that happen.
You know me.
I'm almost certain.
I am the oracle of shameless self-promotion and shameless promotion altogether. So therefore, it's like, if there's a way to get it out there, I will do everything I can to try to help.
Oh, yeah. I know there's a lot of podcasts that have offered help on this, so we appreciate that. And we'll definitely take you up on that at some level. And Exile on Bad Street, I've heard might be working on a Wildside thing, and there's a few others. So, you're about, from between now and January 28th, if you didn't know about Wildside and what it meant to Georgia wrestling, you're about to find out.
I really don't think it's just Georgia, because once again, you're talking about Wildside. This is a program that had influence all around the southeastern U.S., much less just in the state of Georgia. And the waves from Wildside are still felt to this day in a number of different companies in a number of different areas.
In all companies that matter, that guys have plied their craft for years and excelled to. You know, both TNA, WWE, New Japan, all of those promotions have Wildside alumni involved at some level, and so much more beyond that. Like Luke Hawks, who went on to become free. I mean, not only does he run the top tier Wildcat promotion in Louisiana, where, you know, everything you see from them is just top of the line. And, but, you know, he's also branched out and has a career as a stuntman in Hollywood and has recently got some credits in some pretty big movies, including the most recent Fast and the Furious, a lot of TV shows. He's in the trailer for the new Wolverine movie, getting murdered by Logan with the adamantium claws. And, you know, that is like there's that. There's other guys who have gone on to other careers that I'm not really going to talk about here, but still having success. And, like, that's the name of the game, you know. Like I think everybody, it was like our summer camp, like our college almost. And so it's going to be like that, like an old fraternity reunion. I shudder to think, I wonder if the livers of some of these guys are still able to handle it, because, you know, once you get all this crew together again, the hell is going to be raised. We're all older and much wiser, but, you know, when that little drug called nostalgia kicks in, common sense seems to go out the window.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're up on the most recent episodes of South Park, but the member berries is a whole thing on there, and it really, you just need to Google it, because it's going to take me way too long to explain the whole joke. But it's basically intoxicating nostalgia, and I have a feeling that's going to be happening at the Wildside reunion, and that's probably not the only thing that's going to be intoxicated before everybody goes home for the night. After the show, of course.
Yeah. How many times have we told that lie?
Oh, no, Bill Behrens is there. He'll put a foot in somebody's ass if they're getting inebriated during the show. That's a big no-no for him. Always has been.
I would just love to see him bring back one little piece of history that I always heard legend about from so many different people. I said 8 minutes. If it's 8.5, I'm coming out with a chair. There goes that curtain tonight, kids.
Yeah, well, that curtain's blown away in the monsoon and flashing down the highway now.
It's actually acting as a sail for an '83 Yugo convertible that doesn't have a rag top.
No doubt. So 2017 is already looking great. You know, I'm going to pick up my schedule again. I really like the balance I've achieved between maintaining some sort of regular, like, normal life away from all of this, and then, you know, still giving enough effort to where I get out there and you know, make some shots, and not just little 40-miler shots around town, but go out and travel and still try to get some prominent bookings. But, you know, I'm older. I ain't going to hustle as hard as the younger guy, because I've put in a lot of time and a lot of effort over the years, and I've got a body of work. So, you know, if you want to use me, the body of work is out there. So I don't feel like I have to hustle as hard. Now, that means a younger, hungrier guy is probably going to take that spot in some cases, and I'm fine with that. You know, I fully recognize my spot in the business now as a guy to teach and give back, and I, you know, really ultimately like to transition kind of back into that on a full-time level as I start phasing out my career, which, you know, will be in the next few years. I'm not putting a time stamp on it right now, but I don't want to be the guy who's 60 years old, still trying to put on his face paint and, you know, come out here with the fucking goat horns and you know, try to just relive past glory when it's somebody else's time. You know, I'm fine to come out for the nostalgia thing every now and again, but, you know, that's, like, I love the wrestling business. I want to contribute. I want to be involved, and so that's why, you know, I've always kind of been involved in office and administrative stuff, but now I'm really focusing on, ultimately within the next few years, just transitioning over to that and some occasional announcing.
Well, a lot of it all comes down to personal preference because when it comes down, I mean, it's like in your role as a manager, there is a timeless factor to it. And the only chronographical restriction that can ever be placed on it would be by you. Because having watched you work, having listened, having watched, having been there, there is, I mean, and I'm not just blowing smoke up your ass on this one. You're someone who enjoys what you do, and therefore it transcends a timeline boundary. Because when you have somebody who genuinely who overreads time, they put themselves under constraints and they feel like they have to do it all before everything gets away. And it's like, you know, I'm 50 years old. I've been a part of this industry for 30 plus years, or right at 30 years actually. And I've still yet to hit my apex when it comes to certain things. So that, and it's like, I'm the same type of person though. I don't know if I'll be able to do in 5 years what I can still do right now. And if I can't, I'll walk away, regardless of what anybody says. But by the same token, never put any kind of undue pressure on yourself as far as a timeline goes. As long as you know that you still got it and everybody around you goes, yeah, you still got it. Or even if they say, yeah, you got it, then have fun with it.
I mean, a lot of it is just servicing the need that's out there also. You know, I found that 2016 is one of my best years in wrestling from just a monetary standpoint and like getting to do different things. But, you know, and what happened was in past years, I just like, okay, if I try to spread myself too thin, I'm going to do a crappy job at everything instead of a good job at one thing. So I'm just going to manage. I'm just going to announce. I'm just going to book. That's kind of been my previous motto. But in 2016, I said, you know what, fuck it. Like, I can do every job in wrestling except for be a wrestler, and I've done that. It's not pretty, but, you know, I did carry Steve Dave to an almost watchable match one time, so... you know, but you know, I can do everything in the business except for actually wrestle. So instead of just constraining myself, I just opened it up and I said, fuck it. I'm just going to take any job they'll give me. You need a manager, I can do that. You need a booker, I can do that. You need an announcer, I can do that. You need a consultant. I worked as a consultant for a couple different promotions, for Empire Wrestling and for the Phoenix City Invitational. And so, you know, do that as well. Like anything that you can use some of my skills for and pay me to do, then I'm happy to do it. And it ended up being a good thing. Like it actually, I thought it was going to be too much. You know, it got overwhelming at times, but overall, I was really happy with the results. And as far as the age thing, like I just feel like with the yes, the gimmick is timeless, and it probably would age, but because of the nature of the character, would probably age better than some gimmicks, but I feel like also at that point, like okay, the managers did too, but again, it's hard to be an old, angry black metal guy. You know, I feel like that's a young man's game, that useful piss and vinegar. But so many great announcers, you know, Gordon Soley, Lance Russell, Bob Caudle in particular, all went well into their 60s and 70s, and we're still doing great jobs. So, you know, I could see that going on for a long time.
Oh, well, yeah.
But, you know, as far as doing the Reverend and that whole shtick, you know, I think it's got a shelf life, and it's other than, like, nostalgic appearances or new territories. Like, I feel like in the South, I've just done it everywhere. Everybody's seen it. Everybody's seen the rejects come in and dominate and turn business around and then get beat and put the babyfaces over and go to the next territory. Like, so I don't feel like there's much in the way of uncharted territory in the South. There's a couple of places that haven't seen us. So, you know, if offers came in from there, I'd entertain it. But most of the places have seen what we do, and then, you know, to the point that you do it a couple of times in some places, and then you got to ultimately turn your baby face. And so, you know, that's happened everywhere. So you have a 2 or 3 year run on top of the heels, and then instead of leaving, they want you to stay around. Well, if you stay around, you end up being a babyface. And what do I always say about babyface managers, Eddie?
Refresh everybody's memory.
They are useless as tits on a boar hog.
There you go.
So, I hate being a babyface manager. I give it my all, as always, and like the Rejects are not a babyface act, but somehow it happens because you bastards are sick and twisted out there.
Well,
That's
hell
why.
yeah. Well, hell yeah. I mean, I put the world in perspective, and you're talking about the situation you face with the Rejects, and I can go back to a situation with the Oracle of Ominous, the Wicked Nemesis, and the Unlucky Charms. Or I could also go with Jeff G. Bailey and Iceberg, because there are scenarios in play where no matter whose throat you cut, whose leg you break, there are going to be people in the crowd that instead of going, boo, you suck, they're going to go, yes, you rock. I mean, case point scenario, Dusty McWilliams. He is normally very over as a babyface in most areas. Well, lo and behold, you hit that one night in particular where the fans just aren't cottoning to him, to use an old Texasism. And lo and behold, he faces off against Jeff G. Bailey and Iceberg. Actually, Iceberg led to the ring by Jeff G. Bailey. And Iceberg and Bailey get popped from heaven. And for most of us as heels, we prefer it to be the heat from hell. So from there, it's like he was taken off guard. It's like we're supposed to be the heels because I was speaking with Bailey off behind the scenes on this particular show, Peach State, Carrollton, Georgia. And he said, we were supposed to be, I thought we were going to be the heels in this circumstance, and they're cheering for us. I'm just like, nah, I'm going to just do what I do best. Same thing with the Unlucky Charms with Wicked Nemesis over at Global Championship Wrestling in particular. The Charms were a heel team. Wick was a heel manager. But the respect level from the crowd kept elevating and rising and getting even higher to where they started cheering the Charms and Wick. And even though they're going against popular teams, those teams are getting booed and the Charms and Wick are getting cheered. So I can see where it would easily happen to somebody like yourself, because you got people out there that love what you do, love the way you do it. And there's times when that face turn is nothing that can be instigated or stopped by a promoter. It's because the fans have taken over the circumstance and just run with it because they respect the hell out of you.
Yeah, it happens most everywhere if we stay around too long. You know, that's why I like to, you know, when you put the big baby faces over the first time, I prefer to just bail for a few months and come back, do another something, get beat, bail. That's how you keep your heat. Well, for us anyway. Now, like Bailey is a master. You give him the town every week, and he's going to keep his heat. He might have a couple of weeks where they start going with him, but he's going to change that over the course of time. This is a guy who since 1999 in the same fucking arena has kept his heat. Did the babyface turn after 15 years as a heel? It lasted a little bit. Now he's back full on as a heel with the top two heels in the company, and Gunnar Miller and Iceberg, and they've got heat for days. And so, you know, sometimes you're a master of it like Jeff G. Bailey, but I personally cannot stay in one territory for an extended period of time after 2 or 3 or 4 programs. And, you know, especially, you know, over the course of a few years, you got to go or you're going to turn your babyface. And like some places like Empire, the babyface run was phenomenal. It was booked very well, and you have to, with characters like us, you have to do it very carefully. Because if you, like, we're not the vibe-slapping, baby-kissing baby faces, you know. If you change what we did to get over, then we lose our edge. And if we lose our edge, then we're not valuable as baby faces or heels. Or if we need to turn back heel, they're going to fucking buy it, you know. So that's been an interesting road to hoe. So with that being said, you know, I'd go up north and do some heel shit. I've got some stuff in the works in the state of Wisconsin for the month of April.
Cool.
So me and the Deadly Sin 7 possibly be making our way up to the Cheese State. And got Dragon Con already on the books for 2017 and Labor Day weekend in Atlanta. and the Scenic City Invitational. I'll be returning for commentary there. We got the Scenic City Rumble coming up in March. I'm still tentative for that. I'm most likely going to be there, but it does conflict with an important date. So I'm trying to work out the contingency plan for that. But a lot of cool stuff coming up for 2017 in the wrestling world. Very excited about it. Thank you for your support in 2016. I'm done making live appearances this year. You will not see me anywhere. I will be doing some behind-the-scenes work at While We Wrestle and maybe a couple other places between now and the first of the year. But like I said, I'll be back for the Wild Side reunion on January 28th as Dan the Dragon Wilson returns. No Reverend this time. Going to be interesting. I'm excited to see the fans. I'm excited to take pictures. I'm excited about everything. It's really going to be a family reunion. It's really incredible that we pulled this off and that this is actually going to be happening. After many years of talking about it, the time is certainly right. Wild Side reunion coming up. So, talking about going on my vacation to Universal Studios, I wanted to touch on that because what a fucking experience that place offers. This is our third Halloween Horror Nights that we've attended. We did 2006, 2015, and 2006. We did when we got married in 2012. So, when did we get married? 2010. We did 2010, 2015, and 2016.
You get in trouble for that, you know.
This year was by far the best, and there were some good ones at the previous ones, but like almost all the houses this year were themed for movies and officially licensed properties. Not that, like the Universal crew is $1 million Hollywood effects company, so you can imagine even their original creations on the haunted houses were spectacular. Yeah. But this year, they stepped it up a whole other notch. They had an Exorcist haunted house that had all of the great scenes. I was a little disappointed to get no Fuck Me Jesus or Your Mother Sucks Cocks in Hell, but I understand it was a PG-13 event. But you still got the 360 rotating head and the pea soup and lots of great stuff. Like even Father Karras dying at the end, like all of that was in there. It was fantastic. And the Halloween 2 haunted house damn near brought a tear to my eye, folks. All of the great scenes that you can imagine from that movie. I'm not talking about the piece of shit Rob Zombie Halloween 2. And I love Rob Zombie. I'm a big fan of his. Devil's Rejects, House of Thousand Corpses, obviously two of my favorite movies. They've beared huge influence on a lot of my wrestling creations. I was a big fan of his first Halloween movie. Hated the second one. I just thought it went off the rails, as a lot of people did. Not that it wasn't without its merits, but I'm talking about the original sequel to the John Carpenter classic, Halloween 2, the one that takes place in the hospital from the 80s. Right. All the great scenes. Dr. Mixer getting the fucking scalpel in his eye, the chick in the fucking hot tub, getting where he turns it up to boiling and just douses her head in it. Like the shootout between Loomis and Michael Myers, even where Loomis shoots him in the eye, and like they shoot water on you to make it, you think that the blood from his eye spurted on you. And even at the end, when the hospital burns down and you're escaping the haunted house, like a charred up Michael comes after you. This is just fucking phenomenal. Like totally brought my childhood to life before my eyes. I was a kid in a candy store. Like I didn't think it could be topped. And for nostalgia and that warm memory flood that type of thing can bring, it was the best. But probably the most well-constructed haunted house was the American Horror Story haunted house. Oh my God. They did seasons 1, 5, and 6. So it was Hotel, Freak Show, and Murder House. So 3 of the seasons over the last course of, I guess they're to 7 now. But, oh my God, like the actors they had for this were just fucking spot on. If you're familiar with the characters of Dandy and Twisty, who were two of the highlights of the Freak Show season, the guys that had playing them in the haunted house were just spectacular. Like everything about that haunted house was goddamn spectacular. If you like the show, I highly recommend it. If you don't like the show, it's still a great haunted house, but so many Easter eggs for fans of the show, like dozens upon dozens of little things that you probably would need to go through the haunted house 2 or 3 times to really catch every little thing they put in there. Walking Dead haunted house was top of the line as well. It was right up there with the American Horror Story, honestly. It was seasons 1 through 6. So they had a little something from every season. And even had a little, what I thought might have been a little prequel story. Because if you recall, in the RV in the first season when they meet Dale, he refers to his wife, who he had to put down, who turned into a walker. And the first scene when you come up into the Walking Dead haunted house is you go like into like this wooded area, and there's the RV, and in the RV window you can see the silhouette of a dude in a hat, looks like Dale, and a woman who like fucking turns and then attacks him, and he has to shoot her. And so I kind of think they threw us a little extra storyline material in there, which was kind of cool. But you got to see like the governor and like the tank of heads, like one of the rooms of the governor's office. They had like all the fish tanks with fucking floating heads, and that was magnificent. And you had a little bit of the saviors, but the only appearance of Negan was Lucille hanging up in a room. You didn't actually have Negan pop out because they added that season last minute into the haunted house. It was just originally advertised as 1 through 5, and when we got there, they were saying 1 through 6, but it was just like the last little scene that was season 6. But like so many highlights from that, it was fantastic. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre haunted house, and it was great. And my only bitch about that is that it was the first one we went into, and it was like still daylight outside. So the contrast, when you went in the haunted house, the contrast of the lighting was kind of fucked up. So it was really dark. So you could see things, but it was hard to make things out. Like I could tell there was a bunch of leather faces cutting people up, and they were cool. But they had a lot of more subtle things that I really kind of missed as far as the different family members, Drayden Sawyer and the hitchhiker and Grandpa. Grandpa was pretty up front and center and easy to spot, but the other family members popping out is kind of hard to tell who was who because it was so dark, and that was unfortunate because I'm a big fan of all those characters. But I really dug it overall, so it was great. Krampus Haunted House was pretty fantastic, actually. The movie, I saw the movie. We're going to talk a little more about that next week on our special holiday horror movie edition of the Midnight Black Mass. We're going to talk about our favorite Christmas-themed horror movies. When I was going through my queue of things to watch this holiday season, I had a good bundle of great horror movies, and I was like, you know what, that's going to make a good podcast topic. We're going to talk about that next week when Andrew's back. So, but yeah, so the Krampus Haunted House was a lot of fun. And then they had a couple of others that were not movie themed. Like one was Tomb of the Ancients. It was kind of like if the Mummy the Ride had an accompanying haunted house, it would have been that, and that was really cool. They had a Lunatics Asylum 3D, which was kind of just like the one thing I give Universal a little bit of shit about, and they certainly changed the characters to be less like this, but their Horror Nights icon original characters, Chance and Jack the Clown, are fucking Harley Quinn and the Joker. I mean, like, bigger than shit. Like, they at least usually changed Chance's accent. So she wasn't talking like this. Oh, Mr. Jack. Like, come on. Come the fuck on. Like,
That's funny. That's fucking funny.
like, but, you know, whatever. It was a good time. But like the haunted houses this year were just legendary, and so I probably won't go back to Halloween Horror Nights next year because we're looking at going to a different place for our Halloween vacation. But if they have like just some more can't miss shit, that plan could very well change. Let's just say that. Love Universal. love going down there. Got to also check out the new Kong ride, the King Kong Skull Island ride while we were there. And that was really cool. You get taken like through these pygmy catacombs, and these cannibals like jump out at you and shit while you're waiting in line. It's pretty cool. And then you get taken on a bus ride through Skull Island and get stuck in the middle of a fight between King Kong and a T-Rex. It's pretty fun.
King Kong and a T-Rex.
Yep, and you're basically like the fucking ping pong ball in between them.
I'm trying to figure out the over-under on the minutes for that fight.
Well, it was a ride at Universal, so it was about a minute and a half long, and you wait in line for about 45 minutes.
That actually sounds like it'd be fun to ride because
it was good.
Dude, I'm a huge roller coaster nut. And that's why this past year when I had the season pass for Six Flags Over Georgia, it's kind of like, I was over there almost every other Monday. And, of course, me and the nice little funnel cake stand got along on a first-name basis, too. But, so I'll be going back next year, especially now. I found this out last year when I first got the season pass. My Six Flags season pass is good for any Six Flags property. And every time I got ready to take a road trip last year, because I was going to make the drive to Texas, there were a couple other that were going to be within a short distance, like less than a day, to where I was going to go. And, I've had an opportunity to go to Universal before and was not able to take up on it. And that's one of the places that I genuinely love to go because, there's certain things, and I've heard you talk about Horror Nights down there at Universal before, and I've really wanted to go down there because I know that it's going to be a great experience. And, hearing you talk about this season all over again, it's like, damn it. But things in my life have changed. And I almost feel like singing the little Pinocchio track from Ultron in Age of Ultron. So it's going to be a case of next year there will be a lot more on the road, whether it be both Fast Eddie Lane or Beyond Ringside. So mark your calendars on that one. It's going to be an adventure next year. But yeah, I may actually go down and check it out next year. But I've heard so many different places in the U.S. have some extreme haunted houses. Now, it's really hard to get me on haunted houses because I'm very AR, very OCD, and very analytical. And I gauge going through a haunted house by the performance of the actors involved, just like I perform it on, I gauge it on the reality of the scene. If it looks like it's put together podunk last minute with no thought or prep whatsoever, I'm going to sit back and go, okay, refund. But if I can tell they put some heart, soul, imagination, and dedication into it, it's like whether I'm scared the first time or whether I even jump the first time, I can walk through, and based on the professionalism involved, I'll sit back and go, yeah, we're going again. And I'll drop my guard for the second time. It's like, okay, come on, the wall's down. Come at me. Come on.
So, like, jump scares will startle me, but it's really hard to fucking scare me in a haunted house. We were really fucking with the employees, and not intentionally. Like, we were just genuinely that enthusiastic of it. But, like, in the American Horror Story house, when we passed Dandy and the guy was just over there, like, in his whole suit and doing the whole fucking full-on tantrum, we were just marking out and, like, headbanging and throwing up devil horns and talking about how awesome it was. And like, I don't think he knew how to take that. But I appreciate all the craftsmanship, for damn sure.
And that's me to a T right there. If I go through and somebody's wearing a rubber mask or something like that, looks like something you could get at Halloween Express or a Walmart or Party City, it's not going to get any reaction out of me whatsoever other than, ooh, that thing looks hot. Don't you need some new air holes? And it's like if it's genuinely a true makeup or a custom-made mask, I'm going to sit back and, damn, cool, okay, nice. Pull the Georgiana.
Yeah, like we're to the point that, like, the street actors will just stop trying to scare us because they have scare zones, like, as you're trying to get to all the various haunted houses, but they have these whole scenes set up in the street that you have to walk through, and there's people just trying to attack you the whole time, and it's a lot of fun. But they just eventually get to the point where they, like, see us coming. They're like, oh, we can't get these guys. But they will watch us for visual cues on the unsuspecting schmucks around us, and we will send them over, like, hey, get that guy. And
yeah.
we develop a pretty good rapport with the scare actors while we were there. So that was a lot of fun. But I mean, if you're a roller coaster junkie, you owe it to yourself to go to Universal to ride Rip, Ride, and Rocket and the Hulk alone, because those are two of the damned awesomest roller coasters there are. The Dragon Challenge Harry Potter is pretty awesome too. So they've definitely got some coasters. That Hulk coaster, I'm so glad it was back, because when we went last year, it was down for refurbishment, and they've totally redone it. It was previously done in kind of the late 80s, early 90s Marvel animation style.
Yeah.
So everything was, those old school comic panels and stuff like that. And it was really cool. But of course, with the popularization of the Marvel movies and everything, these characters have transcended so much more beyond comics. So they redid the whole ride to make everything more like the movies. And so you have like a big giant, instead of a big looking cartoon Hulk icon out in the front of the ride, he looks like the movies now. He looks like the Avengers Hulk. And the inside of the ride and the line queue has been redone to be much more sleek. They don't show a cartoon video that looks like the 90s Spider-Man animated series. Like, they have all these computer simulations up and shit. There's even one that shows them training the various Hulks, like She-Hulk and Red Hulk and Scar, in the Gamma Lab. So that's kind of the whole deal, is like you're going through the Gamma Lab. And then you get on the coaster, and that thing is like, 6 or 7 corkscrews and upside down a number of times, and is just so fast and intense. But the thing that's really awesome about it is the takeoff, because that's really what gets you, because it's got this giant hill, right?
Yeah.
So you think, okay, I'm going to do the old roller coaster deal where you click, 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 click up to the top, and then whoosh. Like, we've all done a million roller coasters. We know how that goes. Not on the Hulk. What they do on the Hulk is you hear in the speakers that are built into the ride, Bruce Banner running the test. And he's like, all right, we're good, ready to go, beep, beep, beep. And he's like, wait a minute, something's wrong. No, don't stop. No. Like, as you're going up the hill, he turns into the fucking Hulk. So when he turns into the Hulk, you go from like 0 to 60, about halfway up that fucking hill.
Oh.
And it launches you out onto the fucking ride, and it's the greatest. Like, I can't recommend that. That and Superman are two of the greatest superhero themed coasters there are.
Now, you're talking about Superman Ultimate Flight over at Six Flags?
Fuck yeah. I
Okay.
mean, one of the rides lets you hang upside down like Superman and pretend you're flying. It's every child from 5 to 50's dream.
The only coaster that I didn't hit this year was actually the Daredevil Dive. It is the, you're physically going through the coaster, but you're wearing VR goggles.
Oh, they've added something to that. I did the Daredevil Dive. Like, last time I went to Six Flags, it was a fucking terrible experience. So I vowed not to go back until they got their shit together. But they've got some shit together. They've done some, like the Batman ride, like the speakers are all fucking busted. They only play the cool-ass Danny Elfman Batman theme. There's like gum and graffiti all on the inside of the fucking ride. Clean that shit, motherfucker.
Oh, they did. They did. This
Okay,
year,
good.
this year, everything from the Georgia Cyclone unfortunately has the cosmetic appeal of it needs a major facelift. But people,
Oh, no, hang on. Let me tell you something about the Georgia Cyclone. So my wife and Kyle Matthews' wife got on it when we were enjoying a nice group trip to Six Flags, and the fucking lap bar wouldn't latch.
Oh, screw
and
that.
They let them go anyway, and they had to ride the Georgia Cyclone holding the fucking lap bar down manually. That was another strike against Six Flags.
okay, I missed that experience because it worked for, and see, I would have gotten off on that. That's just me though. I would have gotten off on that because I'm the one who is riding Goliath, and I am not letting this thing latch me all the way into where I can genuinely feel myself elevate through the curves and the loops. And it's like you have that little twinge in the back of your head going, this sumbitch ain't going to hold my 240-pound ass. I'm going to go flying. So I'm serious. And no, seriously though, Mindbender reset. The Ninja has been repackaged with new cars. It's the blue something. I can't remember, but it's a blue and gray coaster now. Physically, it's the same coaster. They've done a reset on the cars. It's a different style car with different style wheels. It is just so much smoother because everybody used to talk about getting whiplash on the Ninja. I rode that.
Oh, the Ninja was awful for that. Like, my God, you needed a chiropractor standing outside at the exit line.
Yeah, and now that they've done the car change, on that ride. So it is a ton more smooth, and it actually lets you get a better grip on the curves and everything else going through it. So yeah, I wholeheartedly recommend it. Go back and try it one more time. Now, like I said, all through 2016, I probably went about 13 times. Seriously. Whether it be by myself, which I'm known to do, especially on a day when I just want to go ride coasters and say screw the world. Or if I'm going with the tribe here at the Beyond Ringside Studios, Full Range Entertainment, but I had a great time every time. And the only thing, there were some times where they did the additional hour for season pass holders and through the promotions. The only thing about those, which really pissed me off, was they wouldn't open Gotham. Gotham would close. And it's like, okay, but I go on Mondays and Superman Ultimate Flight, I'm maybe waiting 25 minutes. Got Batman, the roller coaster, I'm probably waiting 10. Everything else is pretty much jump on, except for, believe it or not, the longest line other than Superman Ultimate Flight that I encountered half the time was on the Great American Scream Machine. Oldest ride, longest line. Thank you, Ric Flair.
And that's another wooden rust bucket that needs to be put out to pasture, unfortunately.
Dude, I loved it. I still love the Scream Machine because I don't know what they've done to it, but the facelift is there. It is a lot more smooth. It's still rickety. It's still a wood coaster. But thing about it is, I get off on those. I really dig the old school coasters just as much as I enjoy the new high tech ones. It's kind of like, because it's a me thing. It really is, because, and like I said, the Cyclone, I wasn't that happy with it this year, but I understand that they're getting ready to do the facelift in the off season. They're going to refurbish some things, a lot of things about it, and going for the 2017 season, they're actually looking to make it a little bit better than it has been in the last 5 years. And like I said, when I rode the Scream Machine this year, hey, I was shooting video. That's how stable it was.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, I'll give Six Flags another chance in 2017, and you convinced me.
Well, I'll tell you what.
I've got to go there in the summertime.
Go, I'm like I said, I'm notorious for going on Mondays or Tuesdays. Why? Because it's not lines from hell. It's not asses and elbows. Kind of like the reason why I went to see Doctor Strange this past Thursday at the 10 p.m. showing rather than go anywhere near the original opening night, because I basically, thanks to my friends at Amstar in Alabaster, hint, hint, plug, Amstar 16, Alabaster Props Promenade Shopping Center right off of Interstate 65, Shelby County in Alabaster. I basically ended up having a private showing of Doctor Strange this past Thursday night and loved every damn second of it.
We did too. We got in there and just, like there was like 2 other people in the theater. That's the fucking best.
I mean, there's times if I'm going on opening weekend, I know it's going to be asses and elbows. I know it's going to be, don't even bother grabbing popcorn. You're going to have just enough room for your Coke or soda pop or water, or whatever the hell you drink. If I can ever sneak in the flask, I'll be fine. Bacardi and Coke, we're good. Meat, movie, drink, yes. But it's like, that's why I used to go on Monday nights all the time. And I would always hit the last show on Monday nights because there may be 10 people in there. There may be 20. There may be just me. But that's why I enjoy going in the off times. Same thing with Six Flags. Same thing with every other amusement park during the summer. I'd rather go on Monday or Tuesday. That way I know I can actually enjoy myself for a little while.
Yeah, for sure. Like I don't like crowds. I'll deal with them if I have to, but it's always pleasant when you can get that exclusive theater or theme park experience where you don't have a lot of people. So we just got a few more minutes, but I do want to touch on Doctor Strange. Just about 5 more minutes before we're out of here. But give my quick synopsis because I did see it. We usually will try to, I used to be, I have to go see the premiere guy. I mean, now with age has come patience and wisdom. So now I'm like, I can wait a week and see it on week 2, and then the crowds are so much less heavy. So saw Doctor Strange, loved it. Thought it was a unique corner of the Marvel Universe that is often not explored. I love the character of Doctor Strange, but as a comic book fan and a long-time, deeply invested one, I've always found Doctor Strange better as a supporting character to the Avengers, like when they would have a magical-based villain that they would have to fight and they couldn't crack whatever code he had. They needed to get some help from Doctor Strange, and he would come in and help. And not known for having classic stories. Like when you look at the pantheon of Marvel, there's not the Doctor Strange story doesn't, hold up to the death of Gwen Stacy and the fucking Chris Claremont X-Men stuff and the fucking Ed Brubaker Captain America. It's not like one of those widely great regarded comic runs. But so I didn't know what to expect going into the movie, but I thought they fucking killed it.
Yeah.
I thought they took, just like they did with Ant-Man, a property that very few people cared about, besides really hardcore fans, and turned it into a mainstream superstar.
I agree wholeheartedly. I think that, and also you're forgetting about when you're making a reference to him doing the stuff with the Avengers, don't forget Doctor Strange also was a part of the Defenders.
Oh, yeah. He was on a bunch of different fucking teams. Like, that one run with him and the Defenders, the later one that was like Namor and Silver Surfer.
Right.
It was like a really weird Defenders team. That was like a really good fucking series.
It was.
But, but yeah, he's better as a team guy, was my point.
And for me, it's like you got to be very meticulous in the way that you handle a character like that, because I've always said when it comes to Marvel and DC, there are two people that I am very, very wary of who writes them, who writes for them, and who draws them. The whole damn gamut. Number one is Doctor Strange, because you're dealing with someone who eventually became Sorcerer Supreme. You're dealing with somebody who has untapped potential, unknown true quantitative ability. Try it again. You don't know how deep the rabbit hole runs when it comes to his powers. And I say the same thing on the DC side of life with Dr. Fate and the Helmet of Naboo.
It's the same character, basically.
Pretty much.
DC and Marvel have a lot of those cross-pollination characters where it's like, which came first, the chicken or the egg? But with Deadpool, like, despite Rob Liefeld's protests to the contrary, he's definitely inspired by Deathstroke. I mean, come on. It's obvious. Like, there's a lot of those.
Yeah.
But nothing wrong with it.
No, there's nothing wrong with it. Like I say, though.
Only so many ideas to go around,
Yeah, true. I mean, and to put the world in perspective, it's like, once again, it's the case of when you're dealing with someone who has so much untapped potential and limitless energy to work with, how do you put that quantitative barrier around them to make that? But the only way that you can genuinely do it is to give them a more human side that comes out at the most inopportune times.
Yeah, I agree, and I think they really hit on all cylinders with that. Benedict Cumberbatch. Tell a quick story about Benedict Cumberbatch before we leave this episode. So I didn't know who the fuck that guy was for the longest time. I had seen the Sherlock on the BBC a couple times, and I mean, if I knew his name, I would have known him from there. But I didn't know the guy's name. I'd seen him on Sherlock, but. So the first time I see his name in print was for an advertisement for the Star Trek movie where he played Khan. And the Facebook ad just said, "Are you ready for Benedict Cumberbatch?" And I was like, is that the fucking villain's name in this movie? Because if so, that's really fucking dumb. He goes like, "Oh, no, I'm sorry. It's the guy's real name."
Yeah.
Never mind. But he was great. He was really top tier as Doctor Strange. I didn't really know what to expect with him either. It was weird hearing him not do a British accent, at least for the most part. It snuck through a couple times,
Yep.
but it was a fucking brilliant movie. Like, and right, see it in 3D. See it in 3D. I hate 3D. Gives me a fucking headache. Can't stand it. Everybody said you got to see this movie in 3D because the effects are tiered for it, and it's just they do some things that have never been done. I'm like, well, I like firsts and I like innovation, so I was like, hell, let's check it out. Not disappointed. The 3D made it like an acid trip in many ways. Like it was a wild ride. It was all like seeing it in 3D was almost like a 2-hour amusement park ride. It was fantastic.
You make it sound like I'm having flashbacks personally to the old Mind Blender tour from Peter Gabriel back in the early 90s. Did you ever ride that? Did you ever make it to that?
No. It was before my concert going days.
Oh, dude, I think it was like 91 or 92 when Mind Blender hit. And actually, it's kind of like What they did, it's, the IMAX experience that everybody is gaga about nowadays. What it is, and also there's a couple places in Panama City that do this too. It's theater style seating, but you have hydraulics built into the chair. And for the Mind Blender, it was a roller coaster ride that was like major freaking acid trip. I can't find weed that good anymore. And I've never done acid, but I do smoke weed. Leave me alone. Legalize it, or at least decriminalize it, because there's people in there. Don't get me started. I'm going to leave it alone. But as you go through the Mind Blender roller coaster video, your chair goes left, right, front, back, up, down, all of the above. The only thing it doesn't do is spin all the way around and put out green pea soup. Thank you, Linda Blair. But it was one hell of a concept. I loved it. And it's just awesome. And it's going to come to the point where certain theaters are genuinely going to get to that hydraulics phase for 3D movies to genuinely give you that experience a little bit more readily nowadays than having to spend god-awful amounts of money on IMAX.
Yeah, that's, the theaters have to compete because home theater systems are more and more fancy and state-of-the-art, and a lot of more people just want to stay home instead of getting out and spending the money, so they're trying to make it worth your dollar to go to the movie theater, and it's still a good time, in my opinion. But that's all we got for this week, folks. We're out of time. Thank you so much for joining us and getting back on board with the Midnight Black Mass. We'll be back for another week or two before we take our end-of-the-year break at Christmas time. We'll be back next week talking about our favorite Christmas horror movies, of course, talking some more wrestling stuff. I really wanted to get into the Goldberg-Brock Lesnar finish tonight, but we just don't have time. So we'll save that for next week because I got some opinions on that. And everybody else has shared theirs, and I normally refrain from sharing opinions on mainstream wrestling. But fuck it, I have an opinion I think that some people might find informative and be able to put some perspective on that whole thing. So once again, follow me on social media at Twitter, on Twitter at Dragons Rejects, on Facebook.com/RevDanTheDragonWilson, and book me by emailing me at dragonsrejects@gmail.com. Check out Why We Wrestle, YouTube.com/Why We Wrestle. Subscribe. The television is back. Weekly TV shows are available. We're up through episode 7 there, so make sure you give it a gander. Eddie, any closing comments before we say goodbye?
Actually, if I could, a couple of quick appearance notes that I want to throw out there. This coming Saturday night in Carrollton, Georgia, I am back with Peach State Wrestling Alliance. I am very happy and very proud to be able to say that I was named the new commissioner of Peach State Wrestling Alliance a couple of weekends ago. And we're getting ready for the Christmas Clash this coming Saturday night. Atlanta Wrestling Entertainment back at the famous pub on North Druid Hills this coming Sunday as AWE presents Roar. And, of course, on Saturday the 17th of December, I'll be back with Global Championship Wrestling, Pell City, Alabama for Seasons Beatings. And looking forward to it at Fast Eddie Lane on Twitter, Facebook.com/Fast Eddie Lane. And my website itself is FastEddieLane.com. And for the station, BeyondRingside.com. That'll cover all the bases right there, Rev.
Fan-fucking-tastic. Well, thank you again, folks, for tuning in. Keep one foot in the gutter and one fist in the gold. This is the Rev, and I'm out.